Introduction. In the annals of modern science and spirituality, few stories are as compelling and mysterious as that of Jacobo Grinberg, a visionary Mexican scientist whose explorations into the human mind blurred the lines between empirical research and mystical experience. His work, which delved into the capabilities of the human consciousness, proposed theories that not only challenge our understanding of reality, but also, intriguingly, may have led to his own unexplained disappearance. This audiobook seeks to unravel the intricate web of Grinberg's life, theories, and the enigmatic silence that followed his sudden absence. Jacobo Grinberg's journey into the depths of the human psyche and the outer reaches of spiritual phenomena presents a unique opportunity to explore a narrative that combines rigorous scientific method with profound spiritual inquiry. This exploration is not just an academic exercise. It offers palpable benefits to listeners fascinated by the potential of the human mind and the mysteries that lie at the intersection of science and spirituality. By immersing ourselves in the story of Jacobo Grinberg, we engage with concepts that push the boundaries of what is known and understood about our own capacities. This audiobook provides a platform for listeners to delve into areas often left unexplored by traditional science, areas that hint at abilities and phenomena that defy conventional explanation. Through Grinberg's eyes, we see the world not only as it is, but as it might be, enriched by the potentials of the mind. Grinberg's research, which spanned several decades, began with a focus on neurophysiology and psychology, but quickly evolved into something much greater. His interest in how certain visual and sensory patterns could affect the brain's electrical responses soon intersected with his encounters with spiritual healers and shamans. This intersection became the foundation for his later work, which suggested that the human brain could be more than just a receiver of information. It could be a creator of reality itself. The emotional hook of this audiobook lies in the tantalizing possibilities that Grinberg's life and disappearance present. What if the human mind does indeed have capabilities beyond our current understanding? What if these capabilities are not just theoretical, but are actually accessible and could explain phenomena such as spiritual healing, telepathy, or even the materialization of objects? And what if, in pursuing these questions, Grinberg discovered something so profound that it led to his disappearance? This narrative is not merely about recounting historical facts. It is about engaging with ideas that challenge our perceptions and expand our horizons. It is about considering the possibility that the boundaries between the physical and the metaphysical are not as solid as they seem. Grinberg's work invites us to think about these boundaries not as walls, but as veils, thin, permeable, perhaps even tearable. Listeners of this audiobook will journey through the intellectual landscapes that Grinberg traversed, from the laboratories of Mexico City to the mystical sites of Israel, from the academic halls of New York to the remote villages where shamans practice their centuries-old healings. Each setting provides a backdrop against which the drama of Grinberg's life unfolds, and each contributes to a larger narrative about the capabilities of the human mind. As we delve deeper into Grinberg's theories, particularly his revolutionary idea of the synergic theory, which posits an informational field that all minds are connected to, we begin to see his vision of a universe not defined by its materiality, but by its interconnectedness. This theory, which suggested that reality could be directly influenced by human consciousness, offers a radical new understanding of our place in the cosmos. The implications of such a theory are profound. If Grinberg was right, then our potential as human beings is not limited to what we can physically perceive and manipulate. We are part of a vast, dynamic network of information and energy, participants in the creation of our reality, not merely observers. This audiobook, therefore, is not just a biography. It is an invitation to view the world and ourselves through a lens that offers vastly more power and responsibility than we might have ever imagined. Finally, the mysterious circumstances of Grinberg's disappearance add an element of intrigue and urgency to our quest for understanding. Did he vanish because of personal reasons, or was his disappearance connected to his daring theories? The answers to these questions may not only shed light on the fate of a brilliant scientist, but also on the very mysteries he dedicated his life to exploring. As we embark on this journey together, through the life and disappearance of Jacobo Grinberg, we are not merely uncovering the story of a man. We are exploring the very limits of human potential and the profound connections that bind us to each other and to the universe itself. This audiobook promises not just to inform but to transform, offering each listener the opportunity to rethink what is possible in their own lives and in the world at large. Part 2, Early Life. Born in the bustling cityscape of Mexico City in December 1946, Jacobo Grinberg Zilberbaum entered a world in transformation, nestled within a family rich in European immigrant heritage and Jewish traditions. His environment, a unique fusion of rigorous intellectual engagement and deep cultural values, laid the early groundwork for a mind that would eventually challenge the very boundaries of science and spirituality. Jacobo's early years were shaped by an environment where discussions at the dinner table often wove together threads from advanced science and esoteric spirituality. His parents, both intellectuals, nurtured his curiosity and provided him with a robust foundation in both empirical and philosophical inquiry. This dual exposure was critical, allowing him to comfortably dwell in the realms of the seen and the unseen, the measured and the experienced. Tragically, Jacobo's mother succumbed to a brain tumor when he was just a child, a pivotal event that profoundly influenced his life's direction. This loss sparked his lifelong quest to understand the brain, its mechanisms, its mysteries, and its connections to the intangible aspects of human experience. One can imagine how a young mind, grappling with such a profound loss, might be driven to seek answers to some of life's most perplexing questions through science. As he matured, Jacobo's educational journey was marked by excellence and an insatiable appetite for knowledge. He excelled academically, particularly in biology and chemistry, where he explored the inner workings of life. His intellectual curiosity did not go unnoticed. His teachers recognized his potential early on and encouraged him to pursue higher education where he could further his exploration of the human mind. Jacobo chose to study psychology at the Universidad Nacional Autónoma de Mexico, UNAM, one of the country's most prestigious universities. There, his academic and personal growth accelerated. He delved into the works of Carl Jung and other psychoanalysts who probed the deeper, often mystical layers of the human psyche. These studies expanded his perspective, revealing the potential of the human mind to transcend conventional experiences. His time at UNAM was not just about absorbing what was taught, but also about challenging and expanding the boundaries of traditional psychology. He explored altered states of consciousness, meditation, and psychic phenomena, which were gaining attention in the scientific community during the 1960s and 70s. His thesis work, focusing on the neurological impacts of meditation, was pioneering and suggested that the brain's electrical activity could be significantly altered through disciplined mental practices, potentially unlocking higher states of consciousness. After completing his degree, Jacobo's relentless pursuit of knowledge led him to New York City, where he joined a neurophysiology research program. This period was crucial as it exposed him to cutting-edge research methodologies and broadened his academic and professional horizons. New York offered him a tapestry of ideas and cultures, further enriching his intellectual journey. Here, he engaged with some of the era's most prominent neuroscientists and delved into advanced research on how sensory and visual stimuli affect brain activity. However, despite his success and the excitement of being at the forefront of neurophysiological research, Jacobo felt a growing sense of dissonance. The sterile environment of the laboratory and the rigid frameworks of empirical research seemed increasingly inadequate for exploring the profound questions that captivated his mind. Questions about the nature of consciousness and the human experience beyond the physical. Driven by a desire to integrate the spiritual with the scientific, Jacobo returned to Mexico, determined to explore the rich spiritual traditions of his homeland. He embarked on a journey across the country, engaging with healers, shamans, and spiritual practitioners. These experiences were transformative, challenging his perceptions and deepening his understanding of the human mind's potential. These encounters were not mere academic pursuits. They were deeply personal explorations that transcended the conventional boundaries of psychology and neuroscience. Jacobo witnessed phenomena that defied logical explanation, events that traditional science could not easily explain, but that were as real and impactful as any observable phenomenon. This phase of his life marked a significant pivot in his career. Jacobo began to formulate a new vision of science, one that embraced rather than eschewed the mystical and the spiritual. He theorized that the phenomena often categorized as supernatural could, in fact, be systematically studied and understood through scientific methodologies. This approach was both revolutionary and controversial, proposing a bridge between the empirical and the spiritual, between the observable and the experiential. Through his research and experiences, Jacobo sought to demonstrate that the boundaries between science and spirituality are not as firm as they seem, that perhaps they might not exist at all. His work challenges us to reconsider not just the capabilities of the human mind, but the very nature of reality itself. As we continue to explore his life and theories, we are invited to rethink the potential that lies within each of us, the potential to see beyond the visible, to understand beyond the known, and to reach heights of insight that transcend what we previously thought possible. Part 3. Scientific Ventures. Upon returning to Mexico from New York, Jacobo Grinberg was poised at the cusp of a new chapter in his life, one that would further intertwine the threads of scientific inquiry and spiritual exploration. Already equipped with a solid foundation in psychology and a burgeoning interest in the neurophysiological underpinnings of consciousness, Jacobo was ready to dive deeper into uncharted territories. His time in New York had provided him not only with advanced scientific training, but also with exposure to a diversity of ideas that broadened his perspective significantly. With his return to Mexico, Jacobo embarked on a journey that would redefine his career and contributions to the fields of psychology and neuroscience. He joined the faculty at the Universidad Nacional Autónoma de Mexico, where he had once been a student. Here, he was given the freedom to develop his own research agenda, one that increasingly focused on the intersection of science and spirituality, a field that, during the late 20th century, was still fraught with skepticism and controversy. At UNAM, Jacobo founded a laboratory of psychophysiology, aiming to scientifically investigate the cognitive mechanisms behind what are often considered spiritual or paranormal phenomena. His research was pioneering, for it sought to bridge the gap between the rigor of scientific methods and the elusive nature of spiritual experiences. One of the first major areas of study at his lab involved altered states of consciousness. Jacobo was fascinated by the way that meditation, trance states, and even psychedelic experiences appear to unlock parts of the human mind that are typically inaccessible. He conducted experiments that measured brain activity during meditation, using EEG and later fMRI technologies to observe how neural patterns changed as subjects entered deep meditative states. These studies were groundbreaking. Jacobo's team discovered that during meditation, certain areas of the brain, particularly those involved in attention and sensory processing, showed significantly reduced activity, while others, associated with self-awareness and internal thought, became more active. These findings suggested that meditation could lead to an altered state of consciousness in which the usual boundaries of self and other begin to dissolve, offering a neuroscientific explanation for the feelings of oneness and spiritual connection reported by meditators. Another significant aspect of Jacobo's research was his investigation into the phenomenon of psychic surgery, a practice he had encountered during his travels through rural Mexico. Psychic surgery, often dismissed as sleight of hand or outright fraud, was claimed by practitioners to involve the removal of diseased tissue using only bare hands and without any conventional surgical tools. Skeptical but open-minded, Jacobo approached this phenomenon with the eye of a scientist. He organized field trips where he and his team could observe these surgeries firsthand and gathered data using portable medical equipment. To the surprise of many in the scientific community, Jacobo's investigations did not outright debunk psychic surgery as a hoax. Instead, he found that while some cases were indeed fraudulent, others were not easily explainable within the current understanding of physics and biology. His studies suggested that some forms of healing, whether through the placebo effect or less understood mechanisms, could indeed result in measurable improvements in patient health. Jacobo also delved into the study of synesthesia, a condition where the stimulation of one's sensory or cognitive pathway leads to involuntary experiences in a second sensory or cognitive pathway. Through his work, he theorized that synesthesia might not be just a quirky wiring in the brain, but could also offer a window into the brain's potential to perceive reality in multiple layers. His research garnered both national and international attention, attracting students and scholars eager to learn from a scientist who dared to push the boundaries of conventional psychology. Jacobo's laboratory became a hub for innovative studies, drawing in funding and support from various scientific and academic institutions. However, Jacobo's unconventional research topics often attracted criticism as well. Some peers in the scientific community were skeptical of his methods and conclusions, arguing that his forays into spirituality and paranormal research detracted from the credibility of his legitimate scientific work. Despite this, Jacobo remained committed to his path, believing firmly in the necessity of exploring all aspects of human consciousness, regardless of the controversy they might ignite. His commitment to exploring these uncharted territories was not just about advancing his own academic career. It was about widening the scope of scientific inquiry to include phenomena that are typically dismissed as supernatural or irrelevant. He believed that by understanding these phenomena, science could gain insights into the human condition that were not accessible through traditional methods alone. Throughout the years, Jacobo published numerous papers and books detailing his experiments and theories. His work inspired a new generation of researchers in Mexico and abroad to explore the scientific basis of consciousness and spirituality. His legacy, marked by curiosity, rigor, and an openness to the unknown, continues to influence the fields of psychology and neuroscience, encouraging a more holistic approach to understanding the complexities of the human mind. Jacobo Grinberg's scientific ventures were not just about exploring the boundaries between the known and the unknown. They were about erasing these boundaries altogether. Through his research, he demonstrated that the realms of science and spirituality, often considered disparate, could inform and enrich each other in profound ways. His career serves as a reminder that the pursuit of knowledge is not confined to what is easily explainable, but also extends into the realms of what we dare to explore. Part 4. Spiritual Encounters. As Jacobo Grinberg continued to advance his scientific career, his personal journey into the realms of spirituality deepened significantly. He was a scientist, yes, but also a seeker, intrigued by the mysteries that traditional science seemed unable to fully explain. His return to Mexico not only reconnected him with his roots, but also plunged him into the rich spiritual heritage of his homeland. This chapter of his life would prove to be one of the most transformative, both personally and professionally. Jacobo's exploration of spiritual phenomena was not an abandonment of his scientific principles, but rather an expansion of them. He believed that to truly understand the human mind, one must explore all its aspects, including those that are less understood or even disregarded by mainstream science. This belief led him to investigate a range of spiritual practices across Mexico, from ancient indigenous rituals to contemporary religious ceremonies. One of the most significant encounters during this period was his introduction to a small community in the remote areas of Chiapas, where he first witnessed the ritualistic practices of a local shaman. The shaman, an elderly man named Don Jose, was reputed for his healing abilities, which he attributed to his connection with the spiritual world. Skeptical but open-minded, Jacobo approached this experience with the curiosity of a scientist and the reverence of a student. Don Jose's practices were deeply rooted in the traditions of his ancestors, involving complex rituals that included the use of natural hallucinogens, chanting, and elaborate dances. Jacobo observed and participated in these rituals, noting their profound effects on the participants, including altered states of consciousness and reported healings of both physical and emotional ailments. Intrigued by these observations, Jacobo began to consider the psychological and neurophysiological underpinnings of such practices. How could rituals and substances that alter consciousness also bring about healing? Driven by these questions, Jacobo set up a series of studies to measure the physiological effects of shamanic practices on the brain. Using portable EEG machines, he recorded the brain activity of participants during rituals. The results were fascinating, showing significant changes in brainwave patterns during these practices, similar to those observed in deep meditation. These findings suggested that the altered states of consciousness induced by shamanic rituals could facilitate a different way of interacting with the world, potentially accessing parts of the brain and consciousness that are usually dormant. Jacobo's research into shamanic practices also led him to explore the concept of energy healing, a common thread in many spiritual traditions around the world. He met with several practitioners who claimed to manipulate an unseen energy to heal others. Jacobo conducted experiments to see if there was any measurable energy transfer during these healing sessions. His experiments included thermal imaging to detect changes in body temperature and other physiological indicators that could suggest some form of energy manipulation. While the results were inconclusive, they opened up a dialogue between traditional healers and scientists, fostering a deeper understanding and respect between these two worlds. Throughout these explorations, Jacobo maintained a rigorous scientific approach, ensuring that his findings were based on observable, measurable data. However, he also recognized the limitations of current scientific tools and methodologies in fully capturing the essence of spiritual experiences. This realization did not deter him. Instead, it fueled his desire to develop new methods and instruments that could bridge the gap between science and spirituality. Jacobo's work in this area garnered attention and sometimes criticism, but it also sparked interest in a new generation of researchers intrigued by the scientific study of spiritual phenomena. His papers and presentations at scientific conferences often challenge his colleagues to think beyond their disciplines and consider the possibilities that spirituality might offer to the understanding of the human mind. Despite the challenges and skepticism, Jacobo's research into spiritual phenomena enriched his understanding of human consciousness. He came to believe that spirituality and science are not mutually exclusive, but are complementary paths to understanding the same reality. His work encouraged a more holistic view of science, one that embraces rather than excludes the spiritual dimensions of human experience. By integrating the methodologies of science with the wisdom of traditional spiritual practices, Jacobo contributed to a broader, more inclusive view of consciousness. His legacy in this field is a testament to the potential of an integrated approach to understanding the deepest mysteries of the human mind. Through his pioneering research, Jacobo Grinberg not only expanded the horizons of scientific inquiry, but also provided a valuable framework for future studies at the intersection of neuroscience and spirituality. His life's work serves as a bridge, inviting others to explore these complex territories with an open mind and a rigorous scientific approach. Part 5. Pachita and Shamanism. After several years delving into the spiritual practices of Mexico's indigenous cultures and exploring the potential psychological effects of altered states of consciousness, Jacobo Grinberg encountered a figure who would profoundly influence his research and personal beliefs. Her name was Pachita, a healer whose alleged supernatural abilities had made her a legendary figure in Mexican shamanism. Pachita, or Barbara Guerrero, was a curandera who claimed to perform psychic surgeries, using only her hands and a ceremonial knife, reportedly healing ailments that modern medicine could not. Jacobo's meeting with Pachita was not coincidental, but a part of his ongoing quest to bridge the gap between science and spirituality. He approached this new chapter with a blend of skepticism and an open mind, determined to apply rigorous scientific methods to understand the phenomena surrounding Pachita's practices. Investigating psychic surgery. Jacobo's initial encounters with Pachita took place in her modest healing center in Mexico City. The room was dimly lit, filled with religious icons, and the air carried a mix of incense and antiseptic. Patients came from far and wide, their ailments ranging from physical injuries to chronic diseases and even psychological disorders. With Pachita's permission, Jacobo set up his equipment, including video cameras and medical monitoring devices, to record and analyze the procedures. He observed numerous sessions where Pachita, often entering a trance-like state, claimed to channel spirits to guide her hands. To the untrained eye, these sessions might appear as mere sleight of hand or theatrical placebo. However, Jacobo noted that some patients reported relief from pain and improvement in symptoms that had been resistant to conventional treatments. His approach to studying Pachita's work was methodical and empirical. He collected pre- and post-treatment medical records, conducted interviews with patients, and used thermal imaging cameras to detect changes in body temperature during the healing sessions. The results were puzzling. While not all sessions resulted in measurable changes, a significant number of cases showed improvements that could not be readily explained by current medical science. Theoretical implications. The research with Pachita led Jacobo to develop a theory that combined elements of quantum physics with shamanic beliefs. He speculated that the healing effects might be related to the manipulation of energy fields through intent and focus, a concept he referred to as the synergic field. This field, he hypothesized, was a sort of quantum interface where the consciousness of the healer and the patient interacted, potentially influencing physical matter and biological processes. To explore this theory further, Jacobo conducted controlled experiments in his lab at UNAM, where he attempted to replicate the energy manipulation under more standardized conditions. He enlisted volunteers who claimed to have healing abilities and used a variety of sensors to detect any physical or electromagnetic changes during the healing sessions. Although replicating the dramatic effects observed with Pachita proved elusive, these experiments contributed valuable data to the growing field of biofield science. Cultural and ethical considerations. Jacobo's work with Pachita also raised important cultural and ethical questions. He was acutely aware of the risks of cultural appropriation and the potential exploitation of indigenous practices. Throughout his research, he emphasized respect for the cultural origins of the practices he studied and sought to engage with them in a way that honored their traditions and community perspectives. Moreover, Jacobo faced criticism from both the scientific community and traditional healers. Some scientists dismissed his research as pseudoscience, damaging his reputation in some academic circles. Conversely, some members of the spiritual communities felt that his attempts to analyze their practices through the lens of Western science stripped them of their sacred context. Despite these challenges, Jacobo remained committed to his path, believing that a deeper understanding of these practices could lead to new ways of thinking about health and healing. He argued that dismissing these practices outright without thorough investigation was not only scientifically irresponsible, but also an ethically problematic denial of the potential value of alternative healing modalities. Legacy and influence. Jacobo's research into Pachita's healing practices marked a significant phase in his career, highlighting his unique approach to the study of consciousness and spirituality. His findings, while often controversial, opened the door for further research into psychic surgery and similar phenomena. They prompted a dialogue between practitioners of traditional healing arts and modern scientists, fostering a more inclusive view of what science might encompass. The impact of Jacobo's work extended beyond academia. His books and articles on Pachita and shamanic healing practices attracted a wide audience, contributing to a broader understanding and acceptance of alternative healing practices in the West. His pioneering efforts also inspired future generations of researchers to explore the scientific basis of spiritual healing, ensuring that his legacy would live on in the ongoing dialogue between science and spirituality. Ultimately, Jacobo Grinberg's exploration of the intersection between shamanism and science challenged the boundaries of what is considered knowable and measurable. His work with Pachita, in particular, remains a testament to his belief in the potential for science to learn from and with spirituality, rather than in opposition to it. Through his career, Jacobo demonstrated that the pursuit of knowledge is enriched by openness to the myriad ways humans experience and interact with the world. Part 6. Theoretical Developments. Jacobo Grinberg's journey into the exploration of consciousness and spirituality led to significant theoretical developments that challenged and expanded the existing paradigms of science. His experiences with shamanism and encounters with healers like Pachita catalyzed a deep dive into the theoretical frameworks that could potentially explain the phenomena he observed. Central to his theoretical innovations was the development of the synergic theory, a concept that sought to describe the integrative dynamics between consciousness, reality, and the quantum field. Synergic theory, a quantum perspective on consciousness. Jacobo's synergic theory emerged from his relentless pursuit to understand how the mind interacts with reality at a fundamental level. He proposed that human consciousness is not a passive entity merely responding to external stimuli, but an active participant that shapes reality. This theory was heavily influenced by principles from quantum mechanics, particularly the idea that the observer plays a crucial role in the manifestation of physical phenomena. In his research, Jacobo explored the idea that the consciousness of the healer and the patient were not isolated systems, but interconnected through what he called the synergic field. This field, analogous to the quantum field in physics, was hypothesized to be a non-local medium where information and energy could transcend the limitations of time and space. Through this field, intentions and consciousness could directly influence physical outcomes, potentially explaining the efficacy of practices like psychic surgery and energy healing. Integration of shamanic wisdom and quantum physics. One of Jacobo's most audacious postulates was that ancient shamanic practices and modern quantum physics could be describing the same underlying reality, albeit in different languages. He observed that shamans, through rituals and altered states, often speak of traveling through various realms or dimensions to effect healing or gain knowledge. Similarly, in quantum physics, particles can exist in multiple states simultaneously and can be entangled over vast distances, suggesting a multidimensional order of reality. Jacobo sought to develop a model that could integrate these views, proposing that the shaman's ability to navigate these realms could be akin to a physicist's manipulation of quantum states. This led him to further hypothesize that altered states of consciousness, like those induced during shamanic rituals, might allow individuals to interact more directly with the quantum field, thereby influencing the physical world in ways that are not normally accessible. Empirical studies and challenges. Driven by his theoretical frameworks, Jacobo initiated a series of empirical studies to test these ideas. He designed experiments to measure the physiological and neurological effects of altered states on healers and subjects during healing sessions. He used EEG, fMRI, and other biofeedback mechanisms to track how brain activity changed under these conditions and whether these changes correlated with reported healings or other alterations in physical reality. Despite the sophisticated setup, Jacobo faced significant challenges in these experiments. The main difficulty was the variability and unpredictability of the phenomena he was trying to measure. While some sessions showed remarkable effects and clear data, others yielded no measurable changes. This inconsistency was a major hurdle in demonstrating the validity of his theories to the broader scientific community, which often remained skeptical of his methods and conclusions. Educational initiatives and broader impacts. Jacobo's commitment to his theories and his passion for integrating science and spirituality extended beyond the laboratory. He was deeply involved in educational initiatives aimed at teaching these concepts to students and the public. He believed that a new generation of scientists and thinkers needed to be trained not only in traditional scientific methods, but also in open-mindedness towards the non-material aspects of human experience. To this end, Jacobo developed courses and seminars that covered topics ranging from quantum physics to meditation, psychic phenomena, and the history of shamanism. These programs were among the first in academia to offer such an integrative curriculum, and they attracted students from various disciplines, eager to explore these frontier areas of science. Legacy and forward path. The theoretical contributions of Jacobo Grinberg have left a lasting impact on the fields of consciousness studies and alternative medicine. His work has inspired both adherents and critics to further explore the connections between mind, matter, and spirit. His theories continue to stimulate debate and research, pushing the boundaries of what science considers as the realm of the knowable. Jacobo's legacy is a testament to the power of interdisciplinary inquiry and the importance of maintaining a dialogue between different systems of knowledge. His life's work encourages ongoing exploration into how deeply interconnected our consciousness is with the world around us and it challenges us to think more broadly about the potential capabilities of the human mind. Through his career, Jacobo demonstrated that the pursuit of knowledge is enriched by openness to the myriad ways humans experience and interact with the world. His explorations into the synergic theory and the integration of quantum physics with shamanic practices highlight a profound narrative. That reality is more interconnected and mysterious than we might have previously considered, and that science, when approached with an open and inquisitive mind, can offer insights into not just the physical, but also the metaphysical dimensions of existence. Part 7. Exploring the Quantum Connection. Jacobo Grinberg's pioneering experiments. As Jacobo Grinberg delved deeper into the realms of human consciousness and its interactions with the material world, he embarked on a groundbreaking series of experiments that sought to bridge the gap between the esoteric world of spiritual phenomena and the empirical rigor of science. These experiments, which he collectively referred to as quantum experiments, were designed to test a hypothesis that human consciousness can directly influence physical systems, drawing from the principles of quantum mechanics. His work was inspired by the observer effect, where the mere observation of a quantum particle can alter its behavior, suggesting a profound connection between consciousness and the physical world. Jacobo's theory proposed that if human intention could influence the quantum states of particles, it could potentially affect larger, more complex systems. To explore this intriguing possibility, he set up experiments using random number generators, devices designed to produce sequences that are completely random. According to probability theory, these machines should not show any deviation from randomness over time. However, Jacobo hypothesized that if a human could influence the output of these machines with their focused intent, it could provide tangible evidence for his theory that consciousness can interact with material processes. The experimental setup was straightforward yet revolutionary. Participants were asked to mentally influence the random number generators to produce higher or lower numbers than the statistical average. To ensure no physical manipulation could interfere with the devices, the experiments were conducted under strict controls, with participants placed in isolated rooms away from the machines. They were instructed to focus their intention on influencing the output in a specific way, either to increase or decrease the frequency of certain numbers. As the experiments unfolded, Jacobo meticulously collected and analyzed the data. To his astonishment, the results began to show deviations from randomness that were statistically significant, especially during sessions where individuals reported a high level of concentration and emotional engagement. These findings suggested that the participants' intentions were somehow interacting with the electronic processes of the random number generators. Building on these initial successes, Jacobo expanded his research to include more complex systems and variables. He investigated whether different states of consciousness, induced by meditation or trance, could enhance the ability to influence the machines. Additionally, he explored if emotional states tied to strong personal significance, like love or fear, could amplify the effects observed. The implications of these findings were profound and far-reaching. They suggested that the human mind might be capable of influencing the physical world in ways that current scientific understanding could not fully explain. This led Jacobo to further hypothesize about the nature of reality itself, proposing that the material world might be more malleable to consciousness than previously thought, reminiscent of the philosophical idealism that suggests mind constitutes the fundamental essence of reality. Despite the groundbreaking nature of his findings, Jacobo's work was met with skepticism and controversy. Many in the scientific community found it difficult to accept the possibility that intentions could influence physical systems, as this challenged the foundational principles of causality and materialism that underpin much of modern science. Critics argued that the experiments needed more rigorous controls and replication by independent researchers to rule out any potential biases or experimental errors. Undeterred by the skepticism, Jacobo continued to refine his experimental designs and sought to collaborate with other scientists across the globe to replicate the findings. He believed that the exploration of consciousness and its capabilities was in its infancy, and like all new scientific paradigms, It would face resistance, but ultimately lead to a broader understanding of the universe. Beyond the scientific implications, Jacobo's research had philosophical and practical ramifications. If the mind could indeed influence matter, this raised ethical questions about the use of such abilities and the nature of responsibility and free will. Practically, it suggested potential new therapies in medicine, where mental states could be harnessed to promote healing and well-being, aligning with holistic approaches to health that integrate the mind and body. Jacobo Grinberg's legacy in the field of consciousness research remains influential, sparking further research and debate about the interplay between mind and matter. His pioneering experiments opened up new horizons for the scientific study of spirituality and consciousness, challenging researchers to think beyond traditional paradigms and consider the profound ways in which we might be interconnected with the world around us. Through his career, Jacobo demonstrated that the pursuit of knowledge is enriched by openness to the myriad ways humans experience and interact with the world, inviting us all to explore these complex territories with an open mind and rigorous scientific approach. Part 8. Rising Tensions, Challenges and Criticisms in Jacobo Grinberg's Career. Jacobo Grinberg's journey through the realms of consciousness research and his forays into the intersection of science and spirituality were not without significant challenges and criticisms. As his work progressed, the unconventional nature of his research began to stir both intrigue and skepticism in academic circles and beyond, highlighting the often precarious balance between innovative exploration and the rigid expectations of scientific inquiry. Grinberg's exploration into how consciousness could influence physical matter, particularly his experiments involving random number generators, garnered attention not just for their bold implications, but also for the methodological challenges they presented. While his initial experiments showed promising results, replicating these outcomes under varied and strictly controlled conditions proved to be difficult. The variability and unpredictability of the results led to questions about the reliability and validity of his findings, which critics were quick to point out. Despite these challenges, Jacobo remained undeterred, driven by a deep conviction that there was more to human consciousness than was currently understood. His commitment to exploring these frontiers saw him continually refining his experimental protocols and seeking more sophisticated ways to measure and analyze the interactions between mind and matter. However, as his theories pushed further into the territories that many considered to be pseudoscientific, he began to face increasing isolation from mainstream scientific communities. The academic environment, often conservative in its acceptance of new ideas, especially those that challenge the foundational paradigms, became a source of professional resistance for Jacobo. Colleagues who once praised his rigor and innovative approach began to distance themselves, concerned about the implications of aligning with research that many deemed controversial. Funding became another critical issue, as grant committees were hesitant to allocate resources to work that didn't fit neatly within the accepted frameworks of scientific research. Moreover, Jacobo's work touched on aspects of human experience that were deeply personal and often spiritual, areas typically left to the realms of religion and philosophy. His attempts to bring these into the lab through a scientific lens were met with criticisms not just from scientists, but also from spiritual communities. These communities often viewed his scientific approach as a reduction of their beliefs and practices to mere data points, stripping them of their spiritual significance and depth. This period of Jacobo's career was marked by personal and professional turmoil, but it was also a time of profound introspection and growth. He began to engage more deeply with the philosophical implications of his work, writing extensively about the nature of reality, the limitations of science, and the potential for a more inclusive understanding of human knowledge. His writings, though increasingly philosophical, continued to draw on empirical evidence and scientific reasoning, attempting to build a bridge between the empirical and the experiential. The tensions Jacobo experienced also reflected broader debates in the scientific community about the nature of inquiry and the boundaries of what science can and should explore. These debates were not just academic, but touched on deeper questions about the role of science in society, the limits of materialism, and the potential for a more holistic approach to understanding human nature. Despite the professional challenges and the personal cost, Jacobo's later years were some of his most productive. He established new collaborations with researchers from around the world who were also interested in the frontiers of consciousness research. These collaborations brought fresh perspectives and renewed energy to his work, helping to refine his theories and expand his experimental approaches. Jacobo's resilience in the face of skepticism and isolation speaks to a fundamental aspect of his character, a relentless pursuit of truth as he saw it, regardless of the prevailing scientific dogmas. His career is a testament to the courage required to forge new paths in science, particularly paths that challenge the status quo. Ultimately, the legacy of Jacobo Grinberg is defined not only by his contributions to the field of consciousness research, but also by his role in fostering a dialogue between science and spirituality. His work continues to inspire new generations of researchers and thinkers who see value in crossing the boundaries between disciplines to tackle some of the most profound questions about human existence. Through his life and work, Jacobo exemplified the belief that science is a dynamic and evolving enterprise, one that must continually adapt to encompass the full range of human experiences and aspirations. In the face of rising tensions and criticisms, Jacobo Grinberg's career is a poignant reminder of the complexities that innovative researchers may face, especially when their work challenges the foundations of their field. His story encourages current and future scientists to pursue their inquiries with rigor and openness, fostering an environment where science can grow not only through the accumulation of data, but through the expansion of its conceptual horizons. Part 9. The Mysterious Disappearance. Unraveling the final enigma of Jacobo Grinberg. The career of Jacobo Grinberg, marked by groundbreaking research and controversial theories, took a dramatic and unresolved turn on December 8, 1994, when he mysteriously vanished without a trace. His disappearance not only shocked the academic and spiritual communities he had so deeply influenced, but also sparked a myriad of theories about what might have happened to him. This unsettling conclusion to his life's work adds a layer of intrigue and profound sadness to his legacy, leaving many to wonder about the forces that could have led to such an enigmatic end. Jacobo was last seen in his office at the Universidad Nacional Autónoma de Mexico, where he was reportedly preparing to embark on a trip to Nepal. He had been excited about this trip, intended for both spiritual exploration and scientific inquiry, aiming to study Eastern approaches to consciousness and meditation. However, Jacobo never made it to Nepal. When he failed to return home or contact any of his colleagues or family members, a search was initiated. No significant leads were found despite extensive efforts by both local authorities and the international community. Theories about his disappearance are varied and range from the plausible to the speculative. Some believe that Jacobo's disappearance was related to his controversial research. His work, which delved into the connections between consciousness, quantum physics, and shamanic practices, was not only ahead of its time, but also skirted the fringes of what mainstream science considered acceptable. This led some to speculate that he might have been silenced by individuals or groups threatened by the implications of his findings, which challenged the materialistic foundations of modern science and medicine. Another theory suggests that his disappearance could have been the result of a voluntary withdrawal from society. Those close to him knew that Jacobo had been expressing increasing disillusionment with the academic world and its resistance to new ideas. He had also shown a growing interest in leading a more reclusive life, dedicated entirely to meditation and spiritual practices. This theory posits that Jacobo might have chosen to disappear intentionally, seeking solace and anonymity away from the pressures and conflicts of his professional life. A more troubling theory links his disappearance to criminal elements, possibly connected to the underground trade in psychedelic substances. Jacobo's research into the use of natural hallucinogens for accessing altered states of consciousness might have inadvertently put him in contact with dangerous individuals. This theory is supported by reports of threats he had received months before his disappearance, although these claims were never substantiated by concrete evidence. Amid these theories, some of Jacobo's followers believe that his disappearance was a transcendental act, a final merging with the synturgic field he had theorized about. According to this view, Jacobo achieved a level of consciousness that allowed him to transcend physical existence, an idea that, while metaphysical and unverifiable, fits with the mystical aspects of his work and beliefs. The investigation into Jacobo's disappearance eventually grew cold, with no conclusive evidence to support any one theory over another. The lack of resolution has been a source of ongoing pain and fascination for those who knew him and followed his work. Over the years, his life and disappearance have been the subject of documentaries, books, and conferences, each attempting to shed light on the man and the mystery. In the absence of concrete answers, Jacobo Grinberg's disappearance invites reflection on the nature of his contributions to science and spirituality. His work challenged the boundaries of what is knowable and measurable, urging a more inclusive view of reality that embraces the spiritual and mystical as integral to human experience. The mystery of his fate seems almost a natural extension of his life's exploration into the unknown and unexplained. For those inspired by his vision, Jacobo's disappearance, though tragic, underscores the profound impact he had on the fields of consciousness studies and human potential. It also serves as a poignant reminder of the personal risks inherent in charting new territories, especially those that question established norms and paradigms. As the years pass, the legend of Jacobo Grinberg continues to grow. His theories still inspire debate and experimentation. His books continue to be read, and his life continues to be studied by those who see in his work a different way to understand reality. In many ways, Jacobo Grinberg, even in his absence, continues to influence, provoke, and mystify, much like the quantum phenomena he so passionately explored. His legacy, wrapped in both insight and mystery, challenges us to keep questioning, exploring, and expanding the horizons of human understanding. Conclusion: Bridging Realms, the enduring legacy of Jacobo Grinberg. The enigmatic life and mysterious disappearance of Jacobo Grinberg Zilberbaum remain deeply imprinted in the annals of scientific and spiritual exploration, embodying a profound narrative about the pursuit of understanding at the intersection of observable phenomena and experiential wisdom. His contributions, though occasionally overshadowed by controversy and skepticism, have ignited ongoing discussions that challenge the traditional boundaries of how we perceive and interact with the world. This conclusion seeks not only to recapitulate the essence of his work, but also to reflect on the broader implications his legacy holds for future generations of thinkers and explorers. Jacobo's career was marked by a relentless quest to understand the nature of consciousness and its interactions with the physical world. His pioneering approach, which wove together the threads of quantum physics, psychology, and shamanic traditions, proposed a radical rethinking of the role of the observer in shaping reality. At the heart of his research was the syntergic theory, a groundbreaking attempt to explain how human intention and consciousness could directly influence material outcomes, challenging the conventional scientific view of a purely objective universe. His experiments with random number generators and studies into the effects of meditation and psychic surgery provided tantalizing glimpses into the possibilities that lay beyond the current understanding of cause and effect. These studies, while met with mixed reactions from the scientific community, open up a dialogue about the potential mechanisms through which consciousness could exert tangible effects on the physical world. Despite the challenges in replicating some of his results, the questions Jacobo raised have continued to stimulate research into the power of the mind and its capabilities. Moreover, Jacobo's work served as a bridge between modern science and ancient wisdom, highlighting the value of integrating traditional knowledge systems with contemporary scientific inquiry. His respectful approach to shamanic practices and the use of entheogens in spiritual healing emphasize the importance of cultural sensitivity and the ethical considerations necessary when traversing such deeply personal and communal realms of human experience. The mysterious circumstances surrounding his disappearance have, paradoxically, served to amplify the interest in his theories and writings. The lack of closure regarding his fate has led to a mythicization of his persona, intertwining his life's work with a narrative that resonates with the very mysteries he sought to decode. This unresolved end has prompted a continued fascination with his research and speculation about the broader impacts of his discoveries. In reflecting on the legacy of Jacobo Grinberg, it is clear that his contributions transcend the immediate reactions or the controversies they initially provoked. His enduring impact lies in his bold challenge to the scientific status quo and his visionary integration of disparate realms of human knowledge. By daring to posit that consciousness could directly interact with the quantum fabric of reality, Jacobo opened new pathways for understanding the profound interconnectedness of all things. For current and future researchers, Jacobo's legacy offers both inspiration and caution. His life reminds us of the courage required to explore beyond the comfortable boundaries of accepted knowledge, and the vigilance needed to ensure that such explorations are grounded in rigorous empirical inquiry. His work encourages a holistic view of science, one that is inclusive of the spiritual and existential dimensions of human life. Educationally, Jacobo's influence continues to be felt in the fields of psychology, neuroscience, and physics. Programs around the world increasingly incorporate interdisciplinary studies that bridge science and spirituality, reflecting his belief in the value of comprehensive education that does not shy away from the big questions about consciousness and reality. As we consider the broader implications of Jacobo Grinberg's work, we find a compelling call to expand the frameworks through which we explore and understand the universe. His life's work serves as a profound reminder of the mysteries that remain at the frontiers of science and spirituality. It challenges us to maintain an open mind and a rigorous approach as we continue to explore the deep and complex questions about the nature of existence and our place within it. In conclusion, Jacobo Grinberg Zilberbaum's legacy is not just in the theories he proposed or the research he conducted. It is in the enduring spirit of inquiry and openness that he championed. His journey invites us all to consider more expansive possibilities of what might be true and encourages a fearless pursuit of knowledge that bridges the seen and the unseen. As we move forward, his work remains a beacon for those who seek to understand the profound interplay between mind, matter, and spirit, inspiring a continued exploration of the vast, untapped potentials of human consciousness.